I agree. So what happened after they killed Christ? The temple was destroyed. And after the temple was destroyed, they had no way to expiate guilt. And so the guilt kept building. It builds to intolerable levels. How are they going to deal with it? They created this pattern that has existed ever since. Blame everyone else. It's not me. I'm never at fault for doing anything. It's always some anti-Semite somewhere that is the cause of the problems. That's got to stop. That is totally disconnected from reality. The whole Holocaust narrative, the whole Auschwitz story was based on that narrative. We Jews didn't do anything, and these Germans came and they killed 6 million of us. Hitler was a reaction to Bolshevism. Bolsheviks after World War One, the Bolsheviks took over Bavaria. They created the Soviet Republic of Bavaria. They took over Berlin, and they started their genocidal ways. Again, they got stopped in Bavaria by the militias that came, the Catholic militias that came from the country. But Hitler was there watching this with full attention, and the German people were too. And so when he told them about Bolshevism and talked about Jews, yeah, it's true. Eugenio Pacelli, the nuncio who became Pius XII, went to the Wittelsbach Palace. And he wrote a report because that's his job and sent it back to Rome. And he said, these aren't Germans. These are all Russian Jews. Eugen Levine is not a German. And the other people, and Daniel Jonah Goldhagen, who has lost his reputation, he disappeared. I don't know where he is now. He turned this on, tried to turn Pius XII into an anti-Semite. This is the classic story. No, let's stop. Let's take a deep breath. Okay? It's time to admit that Jews are capable of doing something wrong, beginning with the death of Christ, which Vatican II affirmed in not what the Jews say about it. Okay? It did affirm that the Jews killed Christ. Not all Jews. I've been saying this. Okay? The Blessed Mother didn't crucify him. Okay? Other Jews were like the Blessed Mother who accepted him as the Messiah. All the way up to the present. Gaza is the end of that story. Gaza is the end of the Auschwitz story. You've got a choice now. We know you are a criminal state. Israel is a criminal state that engages in criminal activity on a daily basis, and we are all forced to watch it. And it's tearing us apart. Look at what Toaf said. It's tearing the Jews apart. This is one Jew. Toaf is saying somebody's got to stop Netanyahu. This is what's got to happen. You've got to get over this thing that it's always anti-Semitism is why people don't like us. No, the cause of anti-Semitism is Jewish behavior. People don't like you because of the way you're acting. They have to admit that they're guilt, and that can be the first step toward their readmission to civilized people, the civilized part of the human race. The Jews have to admit that they have been the source of mayhem for 2,000 years.
Why isn't Pope Pius XII a saint?
At some point, the Vatican allowed Jews to have veto power over who becomes a saint.
There's a little bit of delay on his end and your end. So
all right, let me just talk about Pius XII then. This defamation began in the year of his death. Before Pius XII died, Golda Meir and the Jews praised him for the work he did in saving Jews. He was still around, and as soon as he died, the defamation began. It was a play by a German by the name of Hochhuth. The play was called Der Stellvertreter in German, and the deputy in English. And this was the beginning of the defamation that went all the way up to reach the culmination, as I just mentioned, with Daniel Goldhagen's book. I think that was Hitler's Willing Executioners, but it was Cornwell's book was also Hitler's Pope. So the writers out there suddenly realized the key to success is writing a book defaming Pius XII. It will become a bestseller because the Jews will be promoting it. Again, this is such treacherous behavior. Pius XII saved Jews, and now they have to turn on him. And now, after 58 to the present time, 70, 60 years, something like that, Their whole world is collapsing, and nobody believes them anymore. No one believes them. No one believes anything they say. Nobody believes anything that comes out of Benjamin Netanyahu's mouth. And he said, "We will feed them afterwards." Nobody believes you. So the only two, the spectrum of belief, political spectrum in Israel, is the people who are honest about genocide and the people who lie about genocide. But genocide is what's going on.
Yeah, Jimmy Carter did also have a book titled Palestine and Apartheid State, I believe.
Okay.
This-
So what I'm trying to say here, I think the point of this is a rhetorical point. So when you say apartheid, that's bad, and you're saying Israel is bad. Now, whether that's the best example to give of their badness, that's a debatable point. And I don't look. Let's be honest here. Nothing that the Boers or I'm not trying to justify anything that happened in South Africa, but nothing that happened in South Africa is as bad as what is happening, the Jews are doing in Gaza right now. So don't badmouth apartheid by associating with Jews. And second, the other point is that the whole the whole takeover anti-apartheid movement was Jewish. These were Jews who were trying to overthrow the government there because I assume they wanted something. They wanted something in return. Don't ask me. George Galloway was a left-wing revolutionary at this time. He said when he went to fight apartheid in Africa, everyone he worked with was a Jew. So I think that's the type of explication you need if you want to clarify the term apartheid. It's not, look, it would be better if Israel were an apartheid state, because an apartheid state is not a genocide state, which is what Israel is.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Doctor.
You're welcome. I think that Netanyahu is getting desperate, but Netanyahu, he just said, I don't need America's permission to attack Iran. Well, I think you do, first of all. But secondly, you don't need America's permission to destroy yourself either. You can do that all on your own, and you're doing it. And this is exactly the point of Toaf's post here. You are destroying yourself. Israel is destroying itself. Every time they act, they come closer to total destruction. So I think that's what's going on there.
That's what I
They
mean.
have all kinds of crazy projects. Some people say they're ready to build a temple. Every time the bigger they get, the harder they're going to fall. It's that simple. It's in the Civiltà Cattolica series on the Jewish question. They are digging a hole, and the deeper they dig, the farther they're going to fall into their own hole. That's exactly what's happening right now. They have to return to the human race, admit that they've done things wrong, and start doing penance for their sins so that the human race will allow them back into the circle of humanity.
The whole thing people on one side will say is, well, if you claim that there's some error in the actual text of Vatican II, then you're rejecting it. What do you say about that?
No, it's not an error. What the text needs is clarification. So they use the term anti-Semitism that has changed in meaning from the time they used it. So if you went to those 2,000 bishops, one after the other, and went through the Rome at that point and said, "What do you mean by anti-Semitism?" They all would have said biological determinism, because that was the meaning of the word as created by Wilhelm Marr in 1871. They did not mean criticism of Jews, because that's impossible. Jesus Christ criticized Jews. That's the current meaning right now. Anything that a Jew doesn't like is now called anti-Semitism, and they can use that term to destroy your life or justify genocide or anything else. That's what the church needs to clarify this term. We cannot go on with this ambiguous, undefined term in a magisterial document.
Right. That makes perfect sense. Thanks for explaining that. It's what you would call weaponized ambiguity. In other words, the phrase is there, but it requires more explanation. So it's not an error. It's just that I guess these bishops and Malachi Martin tricked them into this little trap that they were going to spring later on and bring us down the road to where now, it's a sin if you criticize Jews. Anyway,
Okay.
thank you, Doctor. God bless.
Now, I think that's another question, and I think you have a right to ask it. If you read my chapter on the Second Vatican Council in the Jewish revolutionary spirit, you'll know that Malachi Martin was paid by two Jewish organizations to subvert the church's teaching on the death of Christ. Now, it may be that they smuggled in something that they knew was deliberately ambiguous. This is an ambiguous term that has to be defined. So that's certainly a possibility, but I can't answer it based on the research I did. I know that the Jews were bitterly disappointed because they wanted the church to say the Jews did not kill Christ, and 2,000 bishops are not going to get together and contradict St. Peter and St. Paul. It's never going to happen. It was stupid on the part of the Jews to even think they could do it. So what they did instead was basically say, after it came out, then they just, oh yeah, they did it. Because the Jews control the media, they control Time Magazine through C.D. Jackson, and they just said by fiat, by ipse dixit, yes, the church said that the Jews didn't kill Christ. That is not true. Rabbi Tannenbaum said this at Notre Dame 6 months after the conclusion of the council when nobody had any documents. He flat out lied. They lied, and they continue to lie about this. But their problem is nobody believes them anymore. Anything a Jew says now is viewed with skepticism.
It seems like this is where a lot of states where we're all headed. It may be illegal, officially illegal, to have freedom of speech against the group. And of course, what I mean by that is all these laws that they're passing, that they want to pass, saying that you can't criticize Jews any longer.
Right.
And this is obviously against American tradition.
Right.
That we're supposed to have freedom of speech about that.
Right. Right.
And I
So
just want
look, this is the high watermark of the Third Republic. Okay, they launched the Holocaust narrative. Okay, they make a gazillion movies about the Holocaust narrative, and people pretty much accept it and they internalize it, and then they go too far. They always go too far when people react. And so when someone says no, they try and destroy the man. And then the second guy comes up, and pretty soon you got a lot of people who are saying this. And at that point, they say, well, we have to make it illegal. As soon as they made this type of criticism of Jews illegal or criticism of Israel illegal, they lost the battle. You can't do this. You're admitting that you don't have an argument. You're not talking the truth when you make it illegal to criticize that. And that's the beginning of the end. And now we're seeing the end. So if push comes to shove, and it's going to happen, these laws will be struck down. I guarantee you they are totally incompatible with the First Amendment, and they will be struck down. At some point, it will reach the Supreme Court. They will be struck down. There will be a course adjustment, and we will go into the Fourth Republic with the First Amendment re-ratified.
Mm-hmm. I certainly hope that you're correct about that, because if it continues to get worse this way, right, and let's say somehow they did figure out a way to even get around that, which unfortunately does happen in this country at times. They figure out ways to get around constitutional rights. I can't imagine what that's even going to look like. I mean, here in Washington State, for example, I don't know if you're aware about this, but now we have a law now that's passed where a priest can be arrested, okay, if he hears, in a confessional booth.
That's not good. That's not going to stand. Let me put it this way: if you are a university professor, you have no free speech, and the law in Florida, for example, will apply to you, and you will lose your job if you criticize Israel. Okay, but that's only for university professors. If you're outside of that, there are just too many people. It's too complicated, and the whole system of repression is breaking down because it's being imposed on us by criminals. Everybody knows this group of people. They're criminals. They're war criminals. Netanyahu is a war criminal. And you just, am I going to go to jail because I said that? I know Jews don't like it when I say that. I doubt very much that I'm going to go to jail because I said Netanyahu is a war criminal. It's just not going to stand. The dam is breaking. and it's going to break all at once, like the one horse shay, all at once, not one part first, just as bubbles do when they burst. That's what's happening right now.